Or like 5 pages in, like 5 physical pages in. It's what? Oh. Somehow I did number these and then forgot that I numbered them. And so, yeah, it's page 29, but that's only 5 pages in. So very useful. Okay. All right. This is an Emily Dickinson poem. Have you had to study Emily Dickinson in the past?
Isn't she like a really prominent writer?
She is. She wrote hundreds of poems. Do you know like what's famous about her? Like, what have you heard about Emily Dickinson?
Factory worker, writer?
No, yeah, she didn't work at, as far as I know, she didn't work in a factory. Yeah. That's kind of like how people talk about her. Yeah, she was kind of reclusive. And I've heard people talk about how that meant that she was kind of a hermit. She just lived in her bedroom. Nobody could ever access her or talk to her or whatever. But then I've also heard people say, no, she was just very introverted and didn't really like people all that much. So I don't know. I think there's like a romanticization of her though for introvert poet types that are just like, oh, she is the best. This hiding in her bedroom, spewing brilliant after brilliant poems. She's very prolific, hundreds of poems, and some of them are like the most famous American poems we have now. But I want to look at one of hers that I really loved. She just numbered her poems. She didn't give them titles. So the number 591 was originally how this appeared. But scholars have gone in so that they can distinguish between poems and just made the first line the title. So I'm going to read this out loud first. I heard a fly buzz when I died. The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm. The eyes around had wrung them dry, and breaths were gathering firm for that last onset when the king be witnessed in the room. I willed my keepsakes, signed away what portion of me be assignable, and then it was there interposed a fly, with blue, uncertain, stumbling buzz between the light and me, and the windows failed. Oh, sorry, and then let me say that again. With blue, uncertain, stumbling buzz between the light and me, and then the windows failed, and then I could not see to see. Okay, her poems are tricky. Her poems often have quite a lot kind of going on structurally, and the words are not so straightforward. So we're going to go through this line by line like we have been doing. But first of all, I just want to get your impressions of it. What do you think this poem's about? Holly Rose?
Like, all I can think about is like the phrase of when it's so quiet that you can hear the pen stop in the room.
Uh-huh.
And so like I'm thinking like she's like narrating the end of her life, and like it's so quiet that you hear like the silence.
Oh, good. Yeah. So it's like someone is dying, and this poem is about the stillness in the room and that quiet, like almost deathly quiet, you know. Kylie?
So I could be going about this wrong. I feel like it's kind of like an accidental suicide.
Okay.
Because it's like the way I see it is she's like looking out the window, and then it's just like really quiet. So she can hear the fly buzzing, and then the windows failed, and then I could not see to see.
Uh-huh.
Like I feel like she just stumbled out the window.
Interesting. So it's almost like there's some intentionality at the beginning. Where she seems to be kind of in control of her thoughts. And then at the very end, that intentionality is kind of squashed, and the windows failed, something is done to her, and this could be then an accidental kind of death.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's kind of weird, like thinking from the point of view, like if she is already dead, and if like this is her viewpoint, like when she's already dead, looking back on her death, like kind of like the other poem, The Photograph.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's like if this is leading up to her death, but it's like the last line, like with blue, uncertain, stumbling buzz, and then it kind of reminds me like kind of like the sound of the fly, but like like the static on a TV. For some reason, like just like, and then because it just like you hear like this buzzing and it just like cuts out and it's like kind of blue and.
Oh, okay. So it's this sudden silencing that's a little bit unnerving, I think, when the static of the TV kind of finally cuts out then. So you're saying it's like that static noise is like the fly noise, right, in the room, and it's irritating and it is taking up all your attention. But then it cuts out and something is suddenly very much missing, and that's like disquieting. Okay. Yeah. Amberly?
I think it's kind of, I don't know, I could still be wrong, but it's kind of like a fondness towards the fly. It's like, then like, I don't know, I imagine it to be like a hospital room. There's just like so much like, I don't know, everybody's just doing things like really purposefully, and it's like very formal, and like, I don't know, it's just very quiet and very solemn, and she's just kind of like dying in this moment. And then she sees this fly buzz, and it like kind of like does all that away, and it's like not really important. It's just kind of like this one thing that she could hold on to for a second, and then like everything's gone. I don't know, it's just kind of like almost just kind of, she didn't really like how quiet it was, and it was just like she was just holding on to that one little bit of like life, and like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like that. It's like a welcome distraction then, this fly a little bit, and it's the symbol then of life still going on. The fly's buzzing around the room, it signals that that fly is doing just fine. It's like vital, you know, and when she is not. Okay. All right, let's go through line by line then. Tell me about flies. Now, this poem, like, this is not a true story. The poet, Emily Dickinson, did not write this poem from the grave, right? She didn't experience this. And so why would she choose a fly? And remember, you can write all over your pages. Why did she choose a fly for the creature? Yeah, Ellie Rose.
They're not very important like creatures of life, I
Mm-hmm.
would say, but like, so they have really, really short lifespans.
Mm-hmm.
They're really annoying. And they're just insignificant.
Okay, I love that. So not important, short lifespans, insignificant. Yeah, so we're feeling fairly negative then about the fly. Okay, yeah, Jane.
I still think it's interesting because flies see like everything. They're part of everything going on in the world. Like they're everywhere, even when you can't really see them. Like with the saying, "A fly on the wall." Like,
Yeah.
I feel like they're in every scenario, even when we don't know that they are there.
Good. So their insignificance gives them a kind of invisibility that can be. It's weird. It's like useful is a weird. In fly on the wall, it's a useful kind of idea, right? That you could be a fly on the wall to observe the room, but you don't have to take part in the events. And maybe that's the reason we choose a fly is because it's like ever present, but we're not always noticing them. But the buzz is really interesting there too, right? Because the buzz is what allows us to notice the fly. Do you want to tell me about fly buzz? I can't stand it. I don't know what it is. If I hear a fly buzz, my nose starts to itch. That's weird, right? Okay, so, but if there's a fly around, like I can't concentrate. Working this summer from home, like working in the spring, we leave the door open so that my dog can go in and out sometimes during the day, and so there would just be flies around the house. I couldn't get anything done if there was a fly buzzing around. Like I'd be chasing it with my fly spotter until I killed every last one of them. Get a half hour of work, and then here's a new fly. It was crazy. They're so distracting to me. Why do you think that fly buzz sound is so distracting? Because I can hear like my husband on a conference call, and that's not distracting me, even though it has content. Yeah, Brooklyn.
I think it's just like the intrusive nature of flies.
Uh-huh.
It's like if you see them, like they just come and buzz around, and like how it says like it came between the light and me, so it's like I was trying to like focus or have like a moment, I guess, or like this final moment before she died, and all of a sudden this fly just like, and I've had bugs like just like smack into me, and it's just.
So it's a kind of unexpected quality that it has as well. Yeah. Yeah, Kylie.
I feel like it, one of the reasons it's like so annoying is just because since there's such a short lifespan, and like they're so just insignificant, we think that they like have no purpose. And so except for and when they don't have a purpose, it's like if they're just doing their thing and it's not like it and like it's not helping or hurting anything, it's just flat out annoying.
I love that. We cannot sympathize with a fly because we don't see it as having intentions or motivations. You know, I can sympathize with a mammal because I connect with it. I see its eyes and I think, oh, this elephant loves its child. I must save it, you know? But with a fly, I have no, I consider myself an animal lover. I have no concerns killing every last fly on Earth. We could kill them all. I don't care, you know, fly genocide. And part of that is because I love this idea is that we don't recognize a purpose in their lives. There's no purpose to us, but we also say there's no purpose to you, your short life. You live, you buzz around, then you die. What's the point of you? Yeah. Ellie Rose.
Like to study and stuff, I've like listened to like white noise from like
Mm-hmm.
and like it sounds kind of the same as like a fly buzzing, right? But I think the difference is that like a fly buzzing is erratic and
Yes.
it moves quickly and weirdly and it's not there when you want it and it's like you never want it. And it has like a super high frequency, it's loud and like it can go right into your ear.
Yeah. So it's like penetrative then, the sound. It goes in your ear, but only occasionally. I think it's the erratic stuff that really drives me crazy too. Because like you said, people like white noise, like to help them sleep or study or concentrate. By the way, have you ever, this is a total tangent, have you ever listened to those Harry Potter ASMR rooms on YouTube when you study? Those are my favorite. It'll have like a fire burning and like quills writing on paper, and like every once in a while like a cat will, like Hermione's cat will meow. So it's just like a ambient sound, but it's so pleasant. Anyway, Brooklyn.
I was just gonna say with what Ali Rose was saying, like how she like kind of shows that like erraticness of the fly with like the word like stumbling, because like it's just like crashing into things. Or
Yeah.
just going kind of everywhere.
Yeah, that stumblingness. It's like the fly itself doesn't have a path either. Yeah. Okay. One more thing to think about with flies is in a book that we'll read later this year, we'll read Lord of the Flies. You know what Lord of the Flies kind of, what that's representative of, what is it representative of? Yeah.
Is it does it represent?
Yeah. Do you know who we call the Lord of the Flies?
Oh, Satan.
Yeah, Satan. It's Satan. So I don't know why I laugh. Every time I say Satan, I laugh. That's like I'm just teasing, right? Like I'm definitely gonna go to hell for that. But yeah. So the Lord of the Flies. Flies are representative of Satan, and
They're your garbage.
when do we see flies? We see them near garbage and where else? Death. Yes, flies surround a dead being, right? So the fly is also a symbol of decay and rotting. And so if you hear one as you die, this is a reminder to you, I am dying. And here is this fly that is going to feast on my flesh and lay its eggs in my body, right? I love doing that to you guys. But it's this kind of material reality of death too. So it's the inconvenience of the fly, it's the purposelessness, the almost nihilistic life of the fly here, and it's that material reality of a fly associated with death. All of the fly is, again, this word that I like to use in here, overdetermined. It has so many symbolic attributes. Okay, then it's, I heard a fly buzz when I died. Do you see these hyphens, these dashes? Emily Dickinson is famous for her dashes. She had them all over the place, and they didn't always signify a pause, but sometimes they throw confusion into the mix. So it's like, I heard a fly buzz when I died, the stillness in the room. You could read it with all the pauses there, right? Or you could read it, I heard a fly buzz when I died, the stillness in the room. Or you could say, I heard a fly buzz. When I died, the stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air. So you can read it in all of these different ways, and the dashes provide that kind of ambiguity, I would say. The dashes provide a kind of ambiguity here where we can read it different ways. What changes when you read, I heard a fly buzz when I died, or when I died, the stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air? What changes with the ways that we're pausing about the meaning? Allie Rose?
The changes from like hearing a fly buzz, it's erratic and annoying and it fills with like, stuff you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
It changes it from being not in a calm, composed environment to being in a crazy environment. And then if you say when I died, the stillness of the room,
Mm-hmm.
it has this ambient. It's like
Yeah.
a calm death rather than painful.
Awesome. I love that. The word I would use there is juxtaposition. I would say there's a juxtaposition between the noise of the fly and the stillness of the room with I died right in the middle of that, connecting the two together. Yeah. Kylie, what were you going to say about the pauses?
I was gonna, like, the juxtaposition again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I heard a fly buzz when I died. It's kind of like, oh, that's weird, like, funky. Or like, I heard a fly buzz. That's annoying. When I died, oh no!
Uh-huh.
I heard a fly buzz. When I died, the stillness in the room, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, that's mysterious.
Interesting. So it's changing at the tone for each way that we pause the thing. Yeah. If I read it the way that I want to read it, the fly buzz seems like a tangent. Because like I heard a fly buzz. When I died, the stillness of the room was like the stillness in the air. It's almost like I'm wondering then this mystery. I'm wondering how the two connect together because it seems like the fly is not where we should start the poem. It feels unexpected to me, kind of like the presence of a fly, you know, that we would start the poem with the fly when there's this giant significant event happening. Why are we caring about the short-lived past instead of the woman dying or the man dying on the bed here in this room? Yeah, Brooklyn.
I think the dashes, like you said, really serve to connect those and to make it seem like less of kind of a tangent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you take time and kind of relate the events between reading them. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Think of those dashes in Emily Dickinson like an arrow instead of a dash. The arrow is propelling you along to create those connections between the ideas. Yeah.
I also read something somewhere where like when an author of like anything chooses to focus on the smaller thing instead of the big thing, like it kind of makes like a more personal connection. Because like, yeah, everyone's heard of fly buzz. No one has died that, or like, you know, like experienced death.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like in war books, they usually focus on like the shoe that was left on the sidewalk
Mm-hmm.
instead of, oh, you know, the soldiers shooting everybody.
Yeah, so it's this relatability factor to it because we
Yeah.
cannot be like this poet is beyond the grave, feeling what it feels like to die. So the fly as the point of connection for us. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm. All right, so we've got three kind of main nouns here. We've got a fly. Well, we have four. We have I, we have a fly, we have a room, and we have a storm. Okay, so tell me then about the storm. What does it feel like when you're between the heaves of storm? It's kind of like an eye of a hurricane. Yeah, what I haven't been in the eye of a hurricane, but what does that maybe feel like, Brooklyn?
Well, I know like in like downpours, like in Utah,
Yeah.
there's like times when it would just like downpour for like a few seconds and then all of a sudden like the sun's out for another few seconds and it starts up again.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like that confusion, like just this space of like what's going on. Like
Yeah.
you don't have time to realize it before like the craziest starts happening.
Yeah, and I think that confusion, and you said it's like it's confusion in this space. I think the confusion brings our attention to the space. For the most part, I'm not really aware of the space around me all that often. Sitting up here on this chair, like I'm thinking about the poem, I'm thinking about you guys, like I'm not thinking about the classroom. But somehow between the heaves of storm, you start thinking about how the space around you feels. Any other observations about what it might feel like between the heaves of storm? Really?
It feels kind of like, I don't know, kind of staticky. It's
Ah.
like an electrical storm. Like it's just like you can feel like that energy in the air, but it's like not actually doing anything. You don't know when it's going to do something.
I love that unused energy that then creates a kind of anxiety. That's how I felt with this last storm. I just realized I have been in the eye of a hurricane in some ways, because we had an inland hurricane up in Salt Lake. And everybody, it was so strange. I came home from work and the winds had kind of died down and everybody was just sort of wandering around the streets. I'd never seen so many people outside of their houses in my neighborhood. And they were just looking at all the damage, just kind of pointing it to their kids, because we had these giant trees that were uprooted all through the neighborhood, and they're just pointing at the trees, and everybody was silent. Like it was super quiet, kind of just like wandering around in a daze. There was a kind of anxiety there because we knew that it had forecasted heavy winds that night too. So we're just kind of like waiting then for worse things to happen. And they didn't happen. The winds that night were not that bad, but that sense of waiting was like making everybody tense up, I think. Yeah, Sam.
I think that, just kind of the same sort of idea that between the heaves of the storm creates this anticipation, almost like you're expecting, the terribleness of the situation to return. And I think that in this circumstance, that would kind of be everyone expecting, this woman to die.
Yes. So the stillness then is not necessarily caused by the death, right? The stillness is caused by the people surrounding her watching the death.
Exactly.
In anticipation. Exactly. I think it's that heaviness too of eyes being on you, because this is first person. So the speaker is feeling that anticipation then from the people watching her die. Allie Rose?
I think there are definitely people in that room, like watching her die, but I feel like the stillness in the room, the stillness in the air, and like she's surrounded by people, she's surrounded by people that like aren't there. Like she's isolated from all of them. And it's like so quiet in her mind, so empty in her mind, while they're probably like all talking. And like, but they're not like, I feel like she's not cared about.
So it's like this existential isolation then. Okay, yeah. And you look here, is this a comfortable stillness then? At first it seems like it. That juxtaposition that you guys were talking about was talking about the annoyance of the fly versus the calm peacefulness of the stillness. But as you continue to read the stanza, and it's on purpose that she waits till the end to upset those expectations again. It's between the heaves of storm, which makes it an anxious, heavy, anticipatory stillness. Brooklyn?
Like between the heaves of the storm, it also kind of gives this idea, like the people who are being silent, it's maybe not as much that they're mourning for her as they're just like uncomfortable and don't know what to do. So it's kind of like this idea, because like when people die, it's like a lot of times like to honor them, you do like a moment of silence or something, and they're kind of like obligated to do it. And then all of a sudden it's like it's almost like this annoyance of being like not appreciated. Like the fly could be almost seen as like a person just coming in and be like, okay, we're done. Like,
good. Because it seems like if there's stillness there, they're not trying to talk her through it. They are not they're not crying. Although the word heaves, when else do we see heaves?
Heaving something.
Hefting, heaving. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's like throwing something away. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that one. You also heave when you sob though. The heaves of like you. That is a heave. That hurt. Hang on. Okay. Okay, but I think that we're reading the people right, because let's look at the next part. The eyes around had wrung them dry, and breath were gathering firm. So we were right then to associate the heaves of the storm with the people kind of inhaling, and we are anticipating them the exhale, right? The breaths were gathering firm. Yeah, Allie Rose.
They're calming down. Like since their eyes had like wrung them dry. I mean, they've been crying for a while.
Yeah.
So much that they can't cry anymore, and their eyes are dry.
Yeah.
And their breaths gathering firm. That means that they're firming up rather than like being a collapsed mess and crying. So they're calming down. They're breathing fine now, and they're like waiting on her.
Yes. So it's almost like they were grieving at one point, and now they aren't anymore. But that might just be because they're trying to get their strength to weather the storm, to steel themselves against a tragic event. Tell me why she doesn't just call them people then, or mourners, or my family. It's the eyes. Do we know what that part of speech is called? We talked about it at the end of AP Lang. If you were in that class, at the very end, we talked about this part of speech. What is it called when you use someone's body part to refer to the whole person? It is an objectification. It definitely is an objectification. It's also called a synecdoche. I don't remember how to spell it. I think it's like this. Synecdoche. Pretty sure that's how I spell synecdoche. A synecdoche is specifically when you are referring to something by its parts. So if you say all hands on deck, if you're talking about sailors coming, and like the part that is worthwhile to the captain then is the sailor's hands. So why even call them people? Just call them hands. Come up, hands, and do your hand stuff here. Like do your hand work, you know? And here we have this person that has been, or these people that have been distilled down to just eyes. So using a synecdoche there, what does that, why? Yeah, Brooklyn.
With eyes, it makes me think of like, it makes it kind of impersonal, and it makes it me think of like a situation, like if someone's being bullied or something, like where there's a lot of just bystanders, like they're not really like active in the situation, they're just there and watching, and maybe like they're sad or mourning, but like she's kind of separating them like personally from, like they're physically there, but they're not.
Good. Yeah, good. So it's like no emotions or thought patterns associated with it. All they are is this observing force, and that creates them. They're just bystanders. They're just observing the events and not going to participate in them in any way. I really like that word. Yeah, Lyra.
This is super pessimistic, but I always think that like mourning for like death is in a way like super selfish. It's like if you're surrounding someone and just like crying, you're sorry for yourself. You're not really sorry for them in a way. So they like, oh, the eyes, with it just being their eyes and not their entire being, they're distant, and it's a selfish act, and they're just watching, and they're in their own heads and not with her there.
Yeah,
rather
good.
than like their hands on her. Like
There is no point of communion there.
Except for eyesight, which is so distant and far away, and you don't know how far away they can be.
Yeah, and that feeling of someone watching you, it's uncomfortable. I don't want to be watched like that by somebody that I would just call the eyes, you know? Yeah, Kylie.
I feel like it's also kind of like trying to distance themselves from the eyes. Like no one wants to be sad in their last hours.
Yeah.
So if you're looking around and you see, oh, that's my mom crying, that's my best friend crying, that's my brother crying, and it's kind of like, oh, shoot, man, I'm so sad. Everyone around me is sad that I'm dying. Whereas if you say that, oh, it's the eyes, it's kind of just like,
Oh,
whatever.
so it's a way for her to also steel herself against what's happening.
Yeah, and like kind of deflect
Ah.
from the fact that everyone's sad.
So objectification in order to deflect. I like
Yes.
that. Okay. The breaths were gathering firm for that last onset, death, I think, right? When the king be witnessed in the room. Who's the king she is referring to, do we think? Okay, so there's two ways of reading it, right? So we've got God, but then how did we start the poem?
Oh.
With the Lord of the Flies. So could the king also technically then be another force here? Because they're waiting for the onset. Something is going to happen. It's interesting that that's framed in such positive terms. It's not her leaving life, it is her starting something else. The onset is death, right? Which is the opposite of how we usually think of death. Death is an ending usually, but here it's a beginning, an onset. And either the king is going to show up, and all these people waiting want to see something like that happen, some confirmation. of a kind of afterlife here. So when the king be witnessed in the room, now the king usually is going to be like the king of kings, like God, you know. But when we started with this fly, king could also be death. The king is witnessed in the room could be the death that they're waiting for. And if we're associating that with flies, then that could be Satan as well. So they're waiting to see, is this person going to go to heaven or hell? And are we going to get confirmation of that? And they want to be witnesses to that. What time is it? Did we get a 10-minute bell this time?
Yeah.
I missed it. Let's do one more stanza. I willed my keepsakes, signed away what portion of me be assignable. So what's she doing there? Yeah, she's saying, and you get this, and you get this. Has anyone's grandma done this to them? You guys are old enough probably for this. Oh, yeah, they have. It's awful. I hate when grandmas do this. I'm getting to that age where some of my friends' parents are doing it. They're going through the house and saying, like, put a sticky note on what you want. And it's just like, none of this. I want you to be alive forever, please. Like, can we just not talk about this? But parents kind of become, people who are closer to death become kind of obsessed with the things that they've accumulated in life. And they want to make sure that these go to good homes, right? What portion of me be assignable suggests that she is identifying with these objects, and she is identifying with the material world then. Herself is here in this world, and the objects she has gathered around her and that she owns, those are part of herself. So what happens when she dies and she no longer has those objects? It's a very scary idea. And in the middle of thinking about this idea, and then there interposed a fly. And I think you guys did a great job already talking about interposed. That's an interruption. It's between the light and me, right? So here's this fly buzzing around in front of the window. Yeah, Brooklyn.
Really quickly, the fly could be seen as like a thief. And just a reminder that like she can't have her possessions anymore because with flies, like if you leave your food for a second outside, like they all just swarm around.
I love that.
And you don't want to touch it anymore. So it's just like a reminder just coming straight at her, like, your stuff is mine now. Like, you can't have it anymore.
And that word swarm is so significant here too, because think about all the eyes watching her, the people who now own the possessions, just waiting to see what more possessions they can get. So they're like a swarm kind of around her as well. Kylie?
Actually brought up, the fly could be like a symbol of death. Well, we said flies are symbols of death already, but like you can't really sympathize with death because it's kind of like unknown. There's a penetrative sound about death. It's not an audio sound. It's kind of just like just always there. It's always in the back, and it's just kind of like, oh shoot, gonna die.
Yeah.
All the times.
Yeah.
It could be like a personification, or not personification, but like.
That's right, personification. Yeah, right. I think that, or anthropomorphization, we could say maybe. But yeah, that idea interposing. Here I am, kind of experiencing the world, and death is going to interpose and interrupt. Okay, we're gonna stop there. Don't forget about this poem because we gotta talk about how she might be a zombie. Not a real zombie, no. But is she dead? Like, is this a poem from